Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hello, everyone. Today we have the great pleasure of hearing from a board-certified family medicine physician with fellowship training in sports medicine and a passion for motivating and inspiring others. She's also a wife and a mother who has been consuming a 100% plant-based diet for 14 years. Welcome to the show, Dr. Harriet Davis. How are you doing?
I am doing great, Celeste. Thank you for having me today.
Of course. I'm so happy you're here and that everything worked out. And before we get into everything I've got planned, I love to ask, what is one thing you do or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
I say a little prayer. I actually, I'm Christian, so I take a moment and I thank God for allowing me to do something that I'm passionate about. And I ask that He just let His light shine through me as I walk across the stage.
I love that. I was actually talking to Jessica Wilson. I know
That's
you
my
guys are.
sister. That's my
Yeah.
best friend.
That's why I messaged her this morning, because I was like, you know what? I think she might have some more like insight too.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, so tell me, is there anything you think I should bring up on this episode aside from, some of the things I already had expressed her that I'd planned? And she said, I should ask you about like letting loose before a show and also
Yes.
hotel room adventures.
Oh gosh. So Jessica is really my non-romantic soulmate, for real. I have never met anyone that I just click with like that on every single level. And, we live on two different coasts. So she's on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. So when I started competing as a professional, I was with Body by O, and Jessica is still with Body by O. And so that's how we met. She was doing her first show with Body by O as an amateur, and I was doing my first show with Body by O as a pro. And we just, like, both of us were backstage anxious because if nothing else messes you up before a show, it's like that line to get your makeup done, right? And
Yeah.
so we're sitting there and we're trying to play it off like with that, it's fine, but it was not fine. And we both could tell like it wasn't fine, but we were sitting there like cool as cucumbers, like, yeah, it's good. We're going to get, everything's going to happen on time and like this and that. And we just clicked and we exchanged phone numbers. And so what we started doing, and we didn't even talk about why we were doing it, but I know it was therapeutic, is when we would get together, we would room together, which is already a good sign because it's hard to room with people, when you're
Mm-hmm.
competing against them, because she did go on to get her pro card, as you know.
Yep.
But we would room together and then we would have all these shenanigans like the night before. I mean, people would probably think we were on some kind of drug and we're not. But we would just like go take things off of carts in the hallway, like some condiments, or whatever that somebody would use, or go just swipe a whole like tray, like a rolling table or
Oh my
something,
God.
so we could have it in our room. I mean, we just would do all sorts of things. And it just became like this thing. Like when we see each other, we have to act silly like before. And so it would take away a lot of the anxiety and a lot of the stress. And, it's so much fun. So much fun. So we even still do it if we're not competing together. We'll start like going through our old videos, and just like sending each other messages back and forth, or we'll start FaceTiming or something. But we still do that to this day.
I love that so much. That is so cute.
Thank you.
Of course. I have a best friend actually who we met through a business coaching thing that we both do. And we were both going to give a speech at this event. And the mentor who connected us actually, who we were both speaking at his event, didn't book us separate rooms.
Oh,
We never met before, okay? Like, we knew of each other, we never met before. And I get in the car, his brother picks me up at the airport and says, so I don't know if he's told you yet, but you're going to be rooming with Rachel. And I was like, oh, I gotta leave. I gotta go back home. And I came from California to New York. I was like, I can't be, because I'm kind of introverted and I don't love,
Yes.
meeting new people, or
Hmm.
especially like you
Hmm.
said, sharing a hotel room.
Room, correct.
Yes. So I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. So then, but we instantly connected. We became best friends and we goof around now. Every time we go to speak at that event, we just have a ball and it's so fun. And like, you're right, it totally relieves the pressure. And we'll do the same thing you did. Like, we actually call each other every week and we just laugh
Yes.
and have fun and connect. And it's really special.
It is special. And you need that. And you don't meet a lot of people who, I'm goofy. I like to be silly because what I do during the day is so serious and people have misconceptions until I took my white coat off and let them see I'm a clown. But, you don't meet people often that you just vibe with on all sorts of levels. And they don't think like, oh, she's just being silly or that's getting on my nerves. We know when the other person just doesn't want to be bothered. Like we don't
Yeah.
have to talk about it. It's just like that nonverbal, that body language. We know when somebody needs to shut it down and we respect that. And then like we know when it's time to crank it up.
Yeah.
And sometimes like if our spouses are traveling or whatever and we don't, one time is in particular we were in Vegas and we didn't have a room together. Jessica's husband was with her and mine was not, and so we were FaceTiming each other like we were halfway across the country and we were just like on two different floors, or we might have been on the same floor and just down the hall.
I love that. That's just so awesome.
Thank you.
So, what stood out to me about you, aside from, being someone with an advanced career, being a mom, also you're really funny with your stories. I definitely
Thank
went
you.
through like a bunch of them. But you've been vegan for 14 years, and I was just telling you, you're the only or the first and only vegan that we've had on this show. Someone who is completely vegan, eats completely plant-based. So, many people, as I'm sure probably experiences
Yes.
every day, question the ability to bodybuild while following this kind of diet. So, what are some of the myths you frequently have to bust or questions you get most often that you have to clarify for others?
So one of them obviously is, we can't do it naturally. Um, that's probably the biggest thing is, it's impossible to build muscle or put on size with a plant-based diet. And, I guess if you didn't do your research, if you are just kind of dabbling in things or trying that bro science and what works for this person may not work for the next person, some people may struggle. For me, I've never known how to build muscle outside of that. So, when people say, okay, I'm going to try 14 days or 21 days vegan, and they start noticing changes in their body that they don't like, a lot of times it's the quality of the food or the choices, because it is not easy. It is easier now, but it was not easy when I first started competing, finding the foods that are high in protein but low in carb. Because I mean, let's face it, when you get closer and closer to a show, you start manipulating those carbs until, it's time to carb up. And so just trying to get that right for your body can be difficult, but it's not impossible. And so every ounce of muscle that I've built has been on a plant-based diet. I haven't known anything else. Now, has it taken me longer than other people? I don't know. Would I have results that I liked more than what I have now if I wasn't? I don't know that either, but I do know that it is possible. For me, that's probably the biggest myth, it is that you can't build muscle on a plant-based diet. And then I'm often asked, well, where do you get your protein? And I wish people would just stop and think. Like a lot of people eat beef, and a cow is 100% plant-based. And that cow, you're eating a steak or whatever from this animal, or bison, the same thing. And these animals do not eat meat. It's just that you're eating the protein that they've built, their muscle, to build your own. And so it's possible. But obviously, you've really got to experiment with the diet. You've got to look at your body composition, how you're responding to different foods. Is it helping you as far as, with the physique or the look that your coach is going for? Are you feeling like you have enough energy? And so those were the things over time that I feel like I've been successful in being able to figure out, but it didn't happen overnight.
That's right. Didn't you mention in an interview before that you took a while to transition from being vegetarian to being vegan?
That's correct. So I was vegetarian for about 20 years before I transitioned to vegan. So I took things out a little bit at a time. And back then, I was a distance runner. So I was running marathons and half marathons. So my goals were very different as far as fitness is concerned. And then, once I did this, I went plant-based because I had so many digestive issues. So it started out to be something for my health, and it has turned into something for the planet, for my health, and for the animals. But it started about Harriet. It was just about me. I was just
Mhm.
tired of having issues with my digestion. And I related a lot of them to when I was eating meat. And I guess that's the other thing too, is one of my big things is because I have a lot of patients that come to me wanting to be plant-based, and it's not for everyone. And I know that some of my vegan friends or
Mhm.
colleagues may say, oh yes it is. It's not. I will not sit here and say any one way to eat is perfect for everyone in the world. Do we want to save our planet? Yes. Do we want to cut back on the amount of animal products and the just how we're tearing up our ozone and the carbon footprint of everything that we're doing? Yes, we need to be mindful of that. But if someone is just deciding to go meatless one day a week, it makes me happy. So,
Mhm.
I'm not one of those people that is plant-based and preaching to everyone, you have to, everybody needs to be vegan. It's the best diet out there. It's the best for me.
I love that. No, yeah, it's really
Thank
difficult
you.
to come across people who are vegan who don't feel that way. Similarly to how it's hard to come across people who like follow a carnivore diet and don't believe that everyone should follow a carnivore diet. So I think that that's really great that you're still taking that perspective of like what's actually going to be the best thing for you. And you mentioned that at first it was difficult and now it's much easier to find options that really work not just for being a competitor, but also that are high in protein and lower in carbs. So what are some of those sources you use now?
So pea protein is something that I really like, and I do soy as well. But Longev is a company that has like these pea protein crumbles that just have to be reconstituted with water. And so for a lot of people who are afraid of soy, that's a great option for a serving size. And I forget the exact serving, but it's like 40 grams of protein in a serving, one.
Wow.
And so I use that. Um, some textured vegetable proteins, which are usually a pea protein or soy protein isolate. I don't drink any protein shakes anymore. So when I first started this, I had at least one protein shake or two a day. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that over time, I've been able to figure out, with the help of coaches as well, and just research, but how to meet my calorie goals, hit my macros without it being a protein shake, like
Yeah.
just supplementing. And I guess that's another myth, is that, if you're going to do a plant-based diet, then you have to drink protein shakes.
Right.
You don't have to.
So what does a normal diet look like for you?
So the mornings can vary anywhere from protein pancakes or waffles to, usually it's cream of rice because I love cream of
Mm.
rice.
Hmm.
Oats, sometimes I'll do overnight oats or just plain oats. So the mornings will vary. And I have two things in the morning. So I have that first morning meal before I leave and go to work. And then at about 10 o'clock, I usually have tofu scramble that I make at home. And so I eat that every day. So it's kind of like my scrambled eggs. Um, and then midday, it's usually some green vegetable, some protein, whether it's tofu or the pea protein, crumbles or those things, and either some carb. So if it's closer to the show, to a competition or a show, then I'm usually using like miracle noodles or something in place of of the carb until it's time to carb up. But it could be anything from red potatoes to sweet potatoes to brown rice or white rice, quinoa. Um, and then usually when I get home from work, right before I go to the gym, that's when I usually have like a half of a Beyond Burger. So I just throw something in there that's kind of fatty, uh, a little bit of avocado or whatever, and then I go work out after about an hour. And that's when I tell my stories on IG. And then my last meal is usually salad with tofu and beans and other things on
Awesome. And that's developed over time, you said, with the help of obviously your research and working with coaches. And I was really curious about how the different coaches you've worked with over time have worked with you as a vegan athlete.
it. Yes. So I will say, like, when I was an amateur, my coach was local and we just had to figure it out. I mean, it was just one of
Mhm.
those things where I remember eating so many black bean noodles back then because it was just one of the things that gave a lot of protein, still had a healthy amount of carb. And carb isn't bad. Like I've realized over time, my body needs the carbs.
Mm.
But when you're learning, you don't know. And so I would say my first coach and that was just like anything else, like elementary. We just had to figure it out. So I got kind of tired because I ate the same thing all the time. There's no variety. There was no
Mhm.
variety. So, and we didn't really experiment because we didn't know, I was her first vegan athlete and she didn't really know how I was going to respond. So after I went pro, that's when I joined Body by O, and I was with Body by O for the longest, for 4 years. And it really was Kim that, kind of gave me more options as far as my food choices and those things until it got down to around show, and then it's pretty strict. And
Mhm.
then after that, I joined D4, and Dan was really good about just straight macros, what's clean to eat. And that's when I really feel like I was able to bring things back more to how you could maintain for a lifetime, and not always just eating the exact same thing. So we experimented a little bit more, and, it just seems like my body responded to that much better. So I started adding more tempeh. I don't really do so other sources that people use. It doesn't work for my body because it's too much like meat, I guess. But
Mhm.
seitan, which is wheat meat, my
Mm.
body doesn't break that down well. It tastes great going in, but then it just bloats me, and I have a hard time digesting that. But that's another great source of protein for people who are looking for ways to incorporate more plant-based protein. Tempeh, tofu, seitan, all those, excellent.
My friend Katie, she's also a vegan competitor, and she was talking about seitan and how much she eats it and enjoys it.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
when you were kind of experimenting with these different types of foods, what did you do when it came time to peak and bring your best? You mentioned Kim took a very strict approach. Did Dan kind of change things up, or was it still macros and knowing, which ones were bloating you? Like, how do you approach a peak week?
So one of the things I've learned over time is like, really, you don't change too much during peak week. It's not like this magic thing
Mm-hmm.
happens. Um, the one thing I would say is with Dan, and I think the same with Kim, we would just drop those carbs, you know, not really low, but we would drop the carbs during those weeks leading up to peak week. And then peak week, depending on your look, just started adding those carbs back. Dan would wait until closer to the show for me to not have protein or, like decrease that and just have all carb, and so,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just, I think just over time, like we would experiment with, okay, let me try tempeh. How does my body look on that? And I can honestly say, like, there's not much of a difference between whether I'm eating tempeh or tofu, but me being type A, I'm pretty much going to keep that part the same, just so
Yeah.
that if my coach likes what I'm looking like, then all of a sudden they're not going to go, oh, what happened? But we do know, like, my body responds to potatoes differently than it does to rice. It responds well to both, but my body loves potatoes. So that's one of the things that, with Dan, I mean, I would get like potatoes on the day of the show, or rice in the morning and potatoes later in the day. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it responds well. But I mean, those were things that, we didn't experiment with Kim. Like we wouldn't change it up like on the day of,
Yeah.
whereas, or we might, and then go, oh God, that looked good. We should have done that earlier. But And I think some of it is your comfort level too. I mean, you start to know your body and you start to know, when you look your best and those things. So one of the things I liked when the Beyond Burger came out is, a lot of times people have to prejudge and go get a burger. And a Beyond Burger is very similar to ground beef that's 80% fat, fat free or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So Kim told me, and I was so afraid. He was like, "Go eat one of those burgers," and I was like, "Eat the whole thing?" And he's like, "Yeah, eat the whole thing," because I usually will eat like half.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, I need you to eat the whole thing," and it was an excellent experience,
Of
because
course.
my body did what it needed to do, and I was
Yes.
like, "Can I do that every time?"
With the bun and everything.
No, I just had it like I didn't have it with the bun because I don't think we had Jessica and I were together this time. I don't even think we had bread in the room,
Yeah.
but I just had that and an order of fries.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was like the best.
I remember one time my coach was like, "You can go get a burger like in between," and
Oh,
it was just like euphoric, You're just
yes.
like, "Wow, I can't believe this is happening."
Oh my God,
You just say
yes.
burger, like
Right. It's the best. And then it's almost like your body won't even eat the whole thing. Like you're trying to get it down, and it's like you can't even eat
exactly.
the whole thing.
Yeah, I become
That's a
like,
paradox.
yes, exactly. Like, come on, body, do this for me. It's like, no.
Yes.
Or like when your coach is like, just have half, you're like, that's gonna be tough. And you do it and you're like, actually, that's perfect. Like,
Perfect. It is.
I
Exactly.
like that between prejudging and finals too, because honestly, I noticed then come time after finals, I'm not like, oh, let's go eat. I'm just kind of like,
Correct.
I'm good.
Right. You don't start like binging on candy and
Hmm.
sugary things and all this crazy stuff.
Exactly. You're just satisfied, had a good day. Yeah, it's really
Mhm.
nice. And you mentioned too that you like obviously you hold on, let me backtrack. You said something specifically that got me thinking about your life, not just in competing as a vegan, but also outside of being a competitor and being plant-based. And I was curious about when you go ahead and you like go to restaurants or you order food, like how does eating plant-based impact that?
So it used to impact it a lot. Like I used to agonize over everything. I think because I've done it long enough now, I kind of know where I always have this like fallback place, somewhere that I know I can go in and veganize anything. But what I always do, and this is something that I teach my patients, even not vegan, like they may be diabetic and they use it as an excuse, like, oh, I'm traveling and I had to eat the wrong stuff because you didn't have what
Hmm.
what I should be eating. I usually will call ahead and I will find out, do you have items on your menu that we can veganize? And I'll often say, because I don't tolerate dairy or eggs, because I have some food allergies. So I'll just often start there so that they pay attention. And then I just kind of keep a running list of these places in different cities that I'm going or whatever. Um,
Oh,
the other thing is like there's a website called the Happy Cow, and so you can basically put in the city where you're traveling and look on the Happy Cow app or website, and they'll tell you restaurants that are vegan, vegetarian, or vegetarian or vegan friendly. And so that's a good thing. PETA is also a great resource for different places. Like my husband is vegan, and before so how everybody you'll have like this little always competition about this person knows more than this person. So we were in
mhm.
California once, and he had just gone vegan, and he said he was hungry, and I usually will go and purchase food at Whole Foods to make. And I told him, I said, well, they have Johnny Rockets. You can go there and get a Boca burger or whatever. I think it's Boca. And he did not believe me. I'm like, dude, don't you think I know where you can eat vegan food? I was like, just look it up. And so, you just start to remember places, that you can go. Like, it's always a good choice to eat Mexican food because you can veganize that beans, rice, guac, mushrooms in place of meat. So that's always an option. Asian cuisine, always easy. So, I can fall back on those. And then if that's not an option, American, you can just get a salad, and more
Yeah.
people have like the Beyond Burger, so you can have them cut that up and put it on there, or you can just ask, do they have tofu? PF Chang's is a place. I don't go out that often, but I do know of places, where that are commercial chains that if you're just going out with friends or family, you're not sitting there like the oddball.
Yes. Which is pretty normal for most competitors,
Right,
regardless.
right. But I always suggest just, either calling ahead, looking at the menu, just Googling vegan restaurants near me, wherever you are at that point or wherever you're traveling. And then, just try it out.
Yeah, there's some really great vegan restaurants near me actually, and I love them, but they don't have nutrition facts or
Correct.
their macros and calories and all these types of things. And I'm always like, that bothers me. And I remember one time I reached out and I asked them about that, and they were like, "Oh no, but everything is like healthy and made of this." And I'm like, "I know, but
Hmm.
so what do you do if they don't have the macros that you need, especially if you're on prep?"
So if I'm on prep, then I don't even risk it. Like if I'm on prep,
Mm-hmm.
I'm that person that's going to be like, depending on how close I am to a show, I'm going to be just pulling out my food,
I'm the
you
same.
know? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not even going to risk it. Or, like if maybe I bring my protein source and then, I ask them, can you steam me some broccoli? I need a cup of that, or I can go over that. And can I have some, rice or potato, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of go in my purse and pull out my protein.
I know. I always love just ordering sides of veggies and stuff
Yes.
at restaurants or tea and
Yes.
getting stuff. So you still feel like very involved and present, but you also get someone gets to make something for you, and it's
Correct.
very satisfying.
And sometimes I get a salad. I might eat
Yep.
before I go and then just get a salad and some vegetable, that I've asked them to prepare a certain way. But there's always a way around it.
Yes. We will find that way
Yes,
always
we
too.
will. Yes. Because I've been at Disney, and Disney, they have a whole
Really?
vegan menu. Like, well, they have this whole vegan options at Disney. So I've been at Disney World on prep, and I will never do that again because they have so many vegan options. However, I was like eating out of a little Ziploc bag while my family was
Mhm.
enjoying themselves. I was just like, can I get some mustard? Maybe that'll make
Yes.
it taste a little bit better, because it was like cold. But that's when I just kind of tell myself, you know what? It's just food. It's fuel. Just eat it. Keep it moving.
Yes, exactly. I went to Knott's Berry Farm, I think 2 years ago when I was on prep and just packed my stuff. And most places, if you just tell them you have dietary restrictions or
Yes.
allergies, they'll allow you to bring your food in.
Yes.
And I love that you said that you just start off right off the bat with allergies
Yeah, I
because
do. They
it's
pay attention.
exactly, they can't question it and they're going to be extra careful with what they put and make with your dish.
And I have gotten so sick. Once was at Disney, and once was, I think, in Maryland. My husband was stationed up in like that area, the DC area, because they put mayonnaise on something, and I questioned, or it might have been in it, and I questioned it. And it's like as soon as I took a few bites, I was like, oh my God. And I react like that. So I was very sick, like sick where I don't really want to use a public restroom,
Mhm.
and I can't risk it. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's not like my son is anaphylactic to peanuts. It's not that, but it's like if I'm having violent digestive issues, it's a problem within like, 30 minutes of eating.
Oh, yeah. That'll
So,
ruin your whole day.
yes, ma'am. And other people's too. No, I'm just like,
Yes. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, and I mean, like you said, if you haven't most of the times, if you haven't eaten certain things in so long, you're gonna get sick anyways, and like you
yeah,
said, it started for you as a digestive thing, so you know
yes,
for sure that you can't take that risk. You did mention that, some people are afraid of soy or kind of shy away from it. You do research, obviously,
I
and
do.
you're in a field that requires you to stay up to date on a lot of these things. So I'm curious as to what you've learned about soy and what you think other people should know about it.
So the big thing is, and people like to harp on these estrogens, and yes, soy has phytoestrogens. So these are plant
Right.
estrogens, not a ton. And in the United States, we do allow genetic modification. We try to purchase things. I do. I try to purchase things that are non-GMO, so they haven't been genetically modified. But when you're in Europe, because it's like illegal. So they're not genetically modifying. So a lot of times when we do look at these studies, I mean, Asians live long lives. They rarely have these conditions that we have in the United States. And they eat a lot of soy, edamame, tofu, you name it. Now, there's certain people that I wouldn't recommend it for. So like if someone has a thyroid issue, I'm not saying they shouldn't eat soy, but they shouldn't eat it every day because that might tinker with their levels if they're having problems like with their medicines or other things. But, typically you're supposed to take your thyroid medicine in the morning on an empty stomach. And so if you had that later in the day, you should be fine. They just may not want to do it every day. If someone is, concerned because they've had a diagnosis of breast cancer that is estrogen receptor positive, then maybe they're not trying to put anything extra in their body that would turn on any other genes. But these are small amounts. I mean, people take birth control pills and, are on hormone replacement therapy and eat beef, which has been injected with all kind of hormones that have these same chemicals and hormones in them. So I think it just really depends on the person, but I eat it every day.
Pick your poison.
Right. Right. And I
No,
haven't had any issues, with when I have my mammograms or when I have my, blood work done, my cholesterol's great. So I'm not having any issues like that. But like I said, it's one of those things where you definitely should discuss it with your healthcare professional. But what I talk to my patients about is, obviously if I have someone that is eating soy most of their day, okay, let's talk about maybe using, if they're tolerant to it, let's use seitan, which is wheat meat or wheat gluten, or let's use something else, if they don't have any inflammatory conditions or other things. But like you said, Celeste, we're picking our poison because I just wish we would come to a point where we realize and respect that, there are different ways to eat and not one way is better than another. But we do know that more plants, more fruits, more plant-based things, they naturally improve your health. They naturally can help, prevent things like diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol. Now, that's just me thinking as a physician, primary prevention. So when someone says, well, why would I eat this way? Well, don't you want to prevent or do whatever you can to prevent these things that could, jeopardize your health, right? So that's the way I look at it. However, there are some people that they don't, maybe they don't have an inflammatory response to animal products. Maybe they're just genetically, they feel better on them. And the reason I say that not everybody is probably designed to eat plant-based, or why I don't just preach it, is because I look at it from the perspective of a physician. And so if I have a patient who has allergies to soy and allergies to peanuts, so that's my son, he probably doesn't need to eat a plant-based diet because, I mean, he's going to be struggling to get his protein. I mean, because two sources he can't even really have. So, and both of those are legumes. So he's not allergic to tree nuts. But then it's like, does he just eat seitan all the time? And
right.
he has eczema. So what will they do for that? But I do know his skin clears up a whole lot when he takes out, when he took out dairy, when he took out eggs, and those things with the eczema. So, it's one of those things where it's just like you have to look at the individual. You have to look at what conditions and diseases they're battling. Because I have plenty of patients who are, they have rheumatoid arthritis or, some a Sjogren's disease, some type of autoimmune condition. And they're trying like heck to get rid of things that cause inflammation. And they wind up either on a pescatarian diet or, they rarely eat meat or other things, and they feel better. And that's what I think it's all about, is what can you put in your body to nourish your body? And it's a medicine for you and it helps you thrive. That's the best diet for you.
Mm. I love I'm like taking like ridiculous notes because I just
Thank
love
you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing all of that. I appreciate the way you expressed it and the way you put it into words. It not only shows your attention to detail, but also your consideration for different people, different needs. And what stood out to me about what you said was it's about prevention and
Yes.
it's about consideration for the individual and maybe the different things they're experiencing. And if we rewound this podcast, you had mentioned something about what, genes end up being expressed. And I know that, if we do believe food is medicine and we see that food can obviously make a difference in the way we feel and the way that we live, and it is our energy source, then it makes sense to fuel our bodies based on our needs. And so what would you say to someone who wants to go vegan or wants to at least start going more plant-based, but does struggle with some of those biological needs and differences that maybe wouldn't allow them to?
So first of all, I would just start with actually a question: why they want to go plant-based.
Hmm.
I mean, that's important to me, because if it is truly for, like, if they say because I was told my cholesterol is high, and I don't want to take medication, or my blood pressure is high and I don't want to take medication, and I know my diet is not up to par, then I start with looking at where they are, what are they eating. And I think one of the things that can cause some problems in people who are kind of predisposed to issues with their cholesterol and issues with their blood pressure, and I'm not even going to throw diabetes in there yet,
Mhm.
is sometimes red meat. And so, I'd start with that. Well, have you assessed how you feel if you just remove beef, or whatever you're eating, like any red meats that you're eating, steak, whatever. And usually I try to just work with them that way and gradually eliminate things. And they may land on, a diet that still has eggs, that still has, excuse me, fish, but doesn't have any other flesh. So maybe they cut out poultry, chicken, pork, but I guess I should say that too. Pork and beef are the two places that I usually kind of hone in on, usually.
Okay. And is that because of inflammation, or are there other things that can be expressed through that?
So if they're buying from like your chain grocery stores, we don't know a whole lot about the upbringing of that animal. Like,
Mhm.
was that a hurried process where they injected with steroids and other hormones, even though the labeling may say that they're not, versus if they live in some little rural area where they're actually raising their animals, slaughtering them themselves, and they know they haven't, as much as possible, I mean, they haven't exposed them to anything that would be, causing more inflammation, or just more of these changes in their body that they've been encountering. I think that that's why I'm bringing that up. Like, we know that pigs don't sweat, so their meat is naturally a little higher in sodium. So if I'm talking to someone about decreasing their sodium intake to prevent hypertension, so say they're pre-hypertensive, then I'm looking for ways that we take that out. I want to take out processed food, that's anything that's been packaged and preserved. We want to get rid of bacon, all those things that maybe can be contributing to the condition that they're trying to prevent.
Mm.
So I kind of approach it with each one different. So, well, I'm going to tell you a situation that is difficult. I have
Okay.
a lot of people who come to me that are diabetic, and we do know, I mean, a plant-based diet will help you reverse a lot of conditions, come off medications. I've encountered it with patients. I've seen the research, but it's like they've got to be at the point or at a stage where they're cooking their food. It's whole food, plant-based diet. It's not, I'm gonna put this in the microwave, or I'm gonna eat a Beyond Burger. It's not that. It
Mm.
is more of what you're preparing. And so one of my biggest challenges is when I have a diabetic who comes to me that wants to go plant-based, because it will reverse diabetes, type 2 diabetes. So the type that is adult onset,
Mhm.
or what I like to say self-inflicted,
Ooh.
but they've got to be coached, because if they go from, I mean, they could just eat fish and a green vegetable all the time and probably control their sugars better than if you just turn them loose on the plant based, because then they go to the fruit, they go to the carbs, and it's like the condition can
Mm.
swing to the other side. And so, I am not a registered dietitian. I mean, I know a lot of things about nutrition, but a lot of times I will send them to an RD, to really help them understand about the carbs, because I've seen it happen where they've gotten it under control. with a plant-based diet and then gotten sloppy and started like eating rice every day or, other things and not exercising. And there's nothing wrong with that because they need a little bit of carb anyway. But, they just go from one extreme to the other without really taking control over, I'm using this as a medicine to, improve this condition. Let's think about what I'm eating and why I'm eating it. So they still need to be cognizant of that, because there are a lot of people. That's another, I'm thinking of them now, but that's another myth is, just eating a plant-based diet, you're going to be healthy. It's got to be whole food, plant-based. You got to pick the times that you're going to have the processed food, and those things. But over time, learning how to prepare your meals, that's going to help you with, figuring out the macros and also understanding how it's impacting your body.
Right. And that's the same for any diet, really.
Yes, yes,
Asking yourself, what am I eating? Why am I eating it? And then also, is it coming from like a positive place? Like,
correct.
anyone could just go maybe down the freezer aisle and purchase something with a certain macro count that's going to fit their needs.
Yes,
But how beneficial is that going to be if they did that 3 times a day, every day for their whole entire life?
yeah,
Mm,
not.
well, right. So, yeah, I love that you said that because I personally believe in, because I take a more mental health psychology approach. I'm currently getting my master's in clinical mental health counseling.
That's
So
awesome.
thank you. Yeah, I'm very passionate about it. And I work specifically with competitors in improving their relationship with food, their mindset around their bodies. And one of the things I have them do every time it's part of our mealtime ritual is, what am I eating and why am I eating it? And not,
Yes,
obviously that gives us the insight we need from a nutritional perspective, but it allows us to not only see the nutritional benefits, see how our body responds, but connect with our body and connect with our choices in a different way. So it's not just autopilot or because someone else said we should or because it's on our diet plan or whatever. It's actually coming from our personal decision.
yes,
So it's an
yes,
empowered choice, and it's one that we become so consciously aware of that then moving forward we know, hey, I'm actually aware that that didn't make me feel good, or I'm aware that that does make me feel good, and it makes us actually think about our choice. So
yes,
we can then feel like, okay, I'm making this choice for me. And that's
correct.
it.
And one of the biggest things that I tell people too is, well, I ask them, is how do you feel after you eat?
Yes.
Because the probably biggest aha moment I had when I went from a standard American diet to vegan. I mean, I was a step process, but by the time I got there, what I realized was I'm tired when I need to eat and I am full of energy after I eat. And when I was eating like a standard American diet, you you're tired after you eat. You eat stuff and if it makes you feel tired, like that's not normal because food is fuel. So you should be able to eat and just go. And so that's probably one of the biggest eye-opening things for me with the changes that I made in my diet. But I often ask patients or people who are asking me about, plant-based, what issues are they having with the current foods that they're eating? Because if you're eating something that may be healthy but you're bloated, is it the chemistries of the things you're putting together? Because sometimes it's not necessarily that you're intolerant to the food, but it's like what you're eating together. So for instance, if you're eating beans and rice and drinking kombucha, sometimes that's gonna bloat you. I
You
mean,
can
that's
have
just
some
not a good
bubbles.
combination. Right. It's just not, or you got chia seeds that are expanding, from something maybe you made a protein shake or a green drink or whatever, and then your next meal is beans and rice. I'm just saying, like, that's going
Yep.
to cause some issues. And so sometimes we do have to, kind of pause and look at what we're eating and how we're feeling. If you're really gassy after you're eating certain things, it doesn't mean that it's bad, but it may mean that, you need to rotate that food out and put something else in or what have you.
Yeah, definitely. Just like being mindful of how your body actually responds to it is going to give you that knowledge you need to make the best choices for yourself.
Correct. And I often too tell people or remind them it's not a race because a lot of people want to go plant-based overnight. And I'm like, that's a big change on your body. I mean, that's a big change, you know. So start experimenting with different recipes for things that you like. Wintertime is actually easy, and full summer. I guess any time of the year is easy, but because they can experiment with different like chili or,
Mm.
just other things that are savory, that it's easy to kind of substitute a non-dairy whatever for this, or, you know, um, the pea protein crumbles for ground beef. And, so I often, recommend like experimenting with different recipes, investing in a good cookbook, and learning how to season your food, because that's the key. If you know how to season it, you can make it taste like anything.
What's your favorite go-to seasonings?
Probably turmeric. Well, it just depends. If I'm making something savory, like turmeric, paprika, cumin, and hmm, that's it. Probably that.
I love
Oh,
that.
and nutritional yeast.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's anything I'm making kind of sweet, that really varies. But cinnamon makes a lot of things taste good.
So true. It really does. It can turn a waffle made of oats and spinach into a yummy pancake. I mean, I don't know. It just
Yes.
warms it up, makes it taste real good.
Yes, it does.
It's like it becomes a dessert. It just transforms it.
I
Um, okay, well,
I
that's
agree.
good to know with the seasoning for sure. And also just everything you mentioned from that nutrition standpoint. And I think a lot of medical professionals actually get a lot of flack for not recommending more proactive measures like changing the nutrition or like being mindful of that. Do you notice that your patients have like had really positive experiences because of that approach
I
you take?
do. I do. And actually, I'm one of the few, there's a few of us here though, but I'm one of the few physicians in the Charlotte metro area that is plant-based. I know of two cardiologists, a pediatrician, and I think there's another primary care, but I don't personally know that person. And one of the things that I love is patients or people do their research. And so when I change from one healthcare system to the next, it was nice in the sense that I was maxed out with patients, so I wasn't really taking a whole lot of new patients with my old healthcare system. But I
Mhm.
would often tell them, if you tell them you're vegan, they will put you in my schedule. Because
Mhm.
I want more patients that are plant based, because so many people just shun it, and they push them away and they don't support them. And I'm like, we have to meet everybody where they are. Like, we
Yes.
cannot, I mean, people are coming to you for your medical expertise and advice. And if you don't know, humble yourself and say, I don't know. I mean, if there are things I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and just, kind of discourage a person from pursuing whatever it is because I don't know. I'm going to reach out to a specialist, I'm going to do a referral or whatever, and we're going to learn together. And that's what I tell my patients. And so, because I'm not going to tell you I know everything. I know a lot of things, but I don't know everything. And so it's the same thing with nutrition. That's enough. You often hear one of these things like, oh, you don't get any kind of nutrition in med school. Well, if you're interested in it, you do. And so when I first started my journey, I was planning to go into surgery. God had another plan. But so I did do a rotation in nutrition, because that's important, with your surgical patients and those things. Now, it's different nutrition than what is plant-based. So that's always been an option in your fourth year of med school. It's just you have to be interested in that. And I
Mm.
think, as everything just comes full circle, now people are starting to look at how many medicines are just, so many side effects and are bad for you, and how can we do this naturally? And so you get the shift from wanting to take a pill to now wanting that pill to be in your refrigerator or in your, cabinets or what have you. And I just tell, I love that when patients come in and they say, I'm interested in going plant-based. This is where I am. And a lot of times they're already pescatarian or they're vegetarian. And, I just kind of hold them right where they are for a while to make sure we've looked at their cholesterol, we've looked at their blood sugars, we've looked at their thyroid function. Is your blood pressure stable? How are your blood counts if it's a young female or whatever? And then, we just kind of work through it together.
If I really appreciate and I like that a lot, and I like that you're giving us so much insight because from, like, a diet culture perspective, there is so much pressure to just, like, "Hop on board, let's do this now, let's not take
Mhm.
into consideration anything else." But from your perspective, it's like, "Okay, like, hold on a second, we have to be
Mindful.
res" Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We need to
take
be educated on where we are. Are we at goal? Do we have anything to lose? I'm serious, because sometimes it's like, no, that's not going to be worth it right now. Like, we got to tackle this.
Mhm.
It could just be anything. But, I love that patients come to me with a notebook ready to just, all they want to know is, how do I do this? What do you do for this? And I mean, it's like, I have to get my nurse to come get me out of the room because I'm like going to run over because I'm so excited,
Yeah.
because I want to help people improve their nutrition and thereby improve their health. I mean, that is the best thing ever. I have even met patients at the grocery store,
Yeah.
on my own time, like, just meet me there and I'll show you what I buy, or, I'll show you why we don't want to use this product, or, this may be a good thing for you. And, those things are priceless. It's priceless for me because it's like, that's what you want as a physician, for someone to, just really respect your opinion that much, that they're like, can you help me with
Mhm.
something that is like not a medicine?
Right. Exactly, and that's must be rewarding for you.
It is. It is very rewarding.
Yeah, it's cool because you're helping them to see the bigger picture, and it's like a way of providing hope, like, "Oh, I can actually tackle this and take care of this, and there's someone who cares about me enough to help me do it the right way."
And I don't fuss at them or, you know, kind of reprimand them or anything if they are, still eating animal products. I mean, like I said, there's no race to the finish. It's a journey for everyone. I've had some that, they've been vegan for a few years and all of a sudden they're like, I just felt like I needed to start eating this again. That's their body, that's their choice. And like I said, I'm sure there are plenty other people who may hear this that are plant-based and are like, no, you shouldn't. But it's different for me because I have to take care of a lot of different diseases, and healthcare, or health, problems. And so it's like, if it's primary prevention, that's easy because the sky's the limit. We can do anything. But some people have other things going on. For instance, if a person is on, this is why I said this may not be for everyone. If a person is on Coumadin or warfarin, which is a blood thinner, we don't use that a whole lot anymore. We try to use the ones where you're not checking levels, but you have to check their INR level, and that's something that is negatively impacted by dark greens, kale, greens, and those things. So either they have to be eating the same amount all the time, or if they don't, then they're at risk for, bleeding because we thin their blood too much. And so, like I said, there's so many things that go into how I answer a question, and why I don't get into discussions with people, on social media or other things about this, is because I'm looking at it from where I took an oath, and that is to do no harm.
Mm. Yes. No, I think that's very apparent, obvious, and just everything you've shared. It's like it's clear that you're taking into consideration everything. You're putting it all on the table and deciding what's going to be the best course of action for this person. And
Yes.
prevention is something that's also promoted in the counseling career. It's like, how
Yes.
can we be preventative? So we never look at a problem as being too small to address. Like, okay, if you're experiencing stress in work, it's not too small of a problem to go and get help, go see a therapist. It's never
Right.
too small because, as I'm sure any form of definition of prevention is, like, you want to not only get ahead of things or stop things before they come up, but also if something starts to rear its ugly head, smack it like whack-a-mole and you
Yes.
don't let it come up again, right?
Correct. Right. That's right.
Yes. So I like that. Giving people the tools that are necessary in order to improve their life, like nutrition and the body and health, is very much related to psychology and the brain and the mind. There's so many factors. Perspective changes things, the way you were raised, cultural views, world views,
Yes.
all of this. And it's similar, like if you have health issues, if you have, things that need to be addressed, you can't just do it one piece at a time. You have to consider all of it.
A holistic approach. Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I love to see people who, go after their lifelong dreams unapologetically, which is exactly what you've done. I know you want
Thank
people.
you.
Yeah, of course. I love it because I think it's courageous, it's brave, and it's also a way of showing like your true light, showing who you're meant to be. And you wanted to be a doctor since you were little, right?
I did. So it's interesting. My father died when he was pretty young, in my opinion. He was 51, and I
Hmm.
was 10 years old. And he had his first heart attack when he was 47, which I think is very young. And the big thing with my dad that I can remember from being, I was, 10, but he just seemed to take his health for granted. I have a lot of his personality, not that take your health for granted, but he was just a happy person. My mom would always say he has a gift for gab. He's always making people laugh. But, I don't think he took his health serious at all. Like that was apparent until it was too late. And so on the day that he died, I was devastated. But what could have been the worst day of my life was a day that gave me purpose. I mean, as we were walking out of the hospital, I looked at my family and I said, I'm going to be a doctor. I just said it. And I think that's the first time I ever manifested anything. And I didn't really
Wow.
understand manifestation, but it is like God moved any and every obstacle that allowed me to just do it. My mom is a first generation college student. She was like the third child born in a family of 8. And she was like, I'm going to college. And so she worked out a way to have a scholarship to go to school. And then her siblings under her went to college. And she's always been that person that's my role model and my hero. And she inspires me. And so, she was like, if that's what you want to do, I will do anything in my power to make sure that you reach that goal. And so it really was not, I mean, when I look back, it really was not tough at all. I mean, I just studied hard and it's like I said, God opened every door that needed to be open for me to be in this position. So that's why I said when I wanted to go into surgery, that was a pivot on my part
Yeah.
because I liked surgery, but that's not where God can use me when people are asleep. So I learned to recognize when I'm going against the will of God. And that's why I had to pivot and I went into family medicine, but I still wanted to do a little bit of sports. So I did the fellowship in sports medicine. But I've known since I was 10 years old, on the day my father died, that this is what I was going to do with my life.
Wow. And you did it.
Yeah, with God's help. I
I
did it.
love
Yeah.
that.
So I really try to make sure that I connect with my patients in a very special way. And any patient of mine who has been with me for a while, they know this. Like, I truly care. So I cry with patients. I never fuss, but they can tell when it's something that is very pressing because just my aura is very different when it's serious. Like
Mm.
if it's something we don't need to worry about, I'm like, yeah, we can watch this. But when it's things that, like a young person with high blood pressure that doesn't want to take medication, I explain to them, we got to take you have to until we can make these changes in your diet, make these changes in your lifestyle. You can stop smoking or drinking or start exercising because that doesn't happen overnight. And these were the things that needed to happen with my dad. Like somebody needed to just make sure he understood, like, you need to be eating this way, sir. Even though my mom was cooking that way, once the
Mm.
cardiologist told us that. And so it, I guess patients can just see it, but it comes from a deep place. And so they connect with me as their friend first. They tell me that you're more like a friend or family than you're my doctor, but they see me as family or their friend.
Mhm.
No matter what age, no matter what race, it doesn't matter, no matter what gender. I just really like pour my heart and soul into it. So by the end of every week, I am drained because I give it all in the exam room every day.
Hmm. And what do you do at the end of every week to refresh so you can do it again?
So I definitely protect my time on the weekends. I either go out with my girlfriends or catch a movie with my husband, or I mean, I just make sure that I'm not like like if somebody were to ask me about their health or whatever on the weekends, I just really kind of ignore that, or I let them know like I'm not working. I just protect that.
Mm.
Get some sleep.
Yes.
And then my rest day is usually one of the weekend days, usually.
Then you
Because
have more time for yourself.
Mhm. And I pamper myself, obviously. So either my pedicure, manicure, my brows, something, or I go shopping or I travel. But I definitely feel recharged on the weekends, especially now. So that was another thing, is I joined a healthcare system where I don't work weekends, because I used to have to work weekends every now and again.
Mm.
So that would really just be irritating, because it's like you have 12 days that you're working straight before you get a day off.
Wow.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. A little self-care. And then
That's awesome.
obviously I get on IG every day after work and I try to tell a funny story, or, make people laugh or something, because I really do feel like laughter is the best medicine.
Yes. I
And
love
sometimes
that.
I just crack myself up. I'm that goofy. So sometimes, like, y'all think
Exactly.
I laugh and I'm just cracking myself up. I'm like, well, okay, I'm now.
My Facebook memories popped up today, and I had posted like a video last year of myself just dying laughing watching Ellen DeGeneres comedy specials, and I was like,
Yes.
oh, I was just laughing so hard. And it's funny because when I watch that video back, I start laughing.
And
So
it's great. It's great.
yes. So
Makes
you
you
can
feel
look
good.
back on all of those stories and laugh, make yourself laugh again and again.
Especially stories I had with Jessica. I start laughing so hard that, like, I don't know, I sound like an alien or something the way I laugh. I mean, I'm just like, whoa.
That's awesome. When you start laughing really hard, you can't even hear yourself laughing. You're just
Right.
bouncing. You
Yes.
just
And making little noises like
exactly.
squeaking.
Yeah, people are like, is she crying?
Is she right?
So if you weren't a doctor, what would you do?
I would be a television co-host or host. That is my ultimate, though,
Oh
goal.
yeah?
I would love to have like a TV gig that I could still talk doctor stuff, but like entertain people at the same time.
Oh
So
my
I would have been
gosh.
I would have been in entertainment,
That's
because
awesome.
the one thing I've never been is shy. Like, I love an audience.
So do you channel that when you step on stage?
Yes.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I love an audience. Like I love getting on stages. I love speaking. I love having like this platform. Um, but I don't love going into like a party and being like, now I have to, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a party person, but I love
I hear
having
you.
an audience.
Yeah, and a party is a little different because everybody's kind of socializing, and you know, I mean, it's different than if somebody's just showing up to watch you.
Right. Like
You
you
walk
get
in a
to do
party,
what
they looking at you. They're not showing up to
yes.
watch you. Talk about, they just looking at you. So some of them might give you that look, and the others may not.
That's exactly right. So,
Yeah.
as a medical professional, as well as a busy mom, and then of course being a competitor, what does your daily schedule look like?
Oh my God. So I'm up at, like, let's just say 5:40, because I usually hit that alarm, like the snooze once. But I set
Mhm.
my alarm at 5:30 right now. Sometimes when it's closer to a competition, it's 5:15. But I'm up in the morning doing cardio. And right now I do like 30 minutes in the morning. And really that is more for me than anything else. So that's my time where I'm expressing gratitude. I'm getting my head in the game. I'm thinking about how I need to show up for my patients. So I'm setting all my intentions for the day, and I'm listening to music and like posting crazy memes. And then after that, I shower, eat, go to work. So I have my first patient always at 8:30. That's always a slot, but sometimes we get work-ins at 8 or 8:15. So I'm basically at work from 8 until 5, just running around seeing patients. I take a lunch break from like 12 to 1 or whatever. Then as soon as I get off from work, I come home and I eat and just kind of chill for, I don't know, maybe an hour. And then I head to the gym. And then I'm in the gym for about 2.5 hours. And then I come back home, eat again, and get ready for my next day.
Awesome. I love that you said you wake up and you take that time to set intentions and express gratitude. because
Yes.
it's clear that you're not only living a life that you love and are passionate about, but you appear to be very happy and fulfilled. And
Yes.
I always love knowing like how people prioritize living a life that does make them feel happy and fulfilled.
Yes. And I think it starts with expressing that gratitude, because it's so easy to just get worn down by the rat race, because I mean, it is a rat race. I mean, I have little downtime. But I have so much to be thankful for. I mean, I'm living the life that I dreamed of since I was a little kid. So at the end of the day, this is what I asked for. So
Yeah.
I have to be thankful. But then I also know it's so important when you're seeing people who are broken, and just have a lot of emotional things going on, or, not feeling comfortable in their skin, to be able to, I really believe that, we give off energy. And so if I come in with this positive energy and I'm happy and I'm on 10, because I'm always on
Mm-hmm.
10, unless I have somebody that's introverted. I do pay attention to body language. So when I have someone that's introverted, I don't pour all my personality on them, because they can't handle that. I mean, it's just that's
Yes, you
counterproductive.
can read and match energy so that
Yes,
they're comfortable.
yes. But, I know that's important, because there's so many times over this 16 years that I've been doing this, that I've seen patients that I haven't done a thing, Celeste, but listen to them and just kind of respond as they need it. And they walk out of the room talking about they feel so much better. I hadn't done
Oh,
anything. I haven't done anything, but I have listened, and I've learned over time that that means a lot.
yeah.
Like, they know what's going on, what they need to do. We don't change anything. I might give them a hug, tell them something positive, because I love encouraging people. I'm not gassing them up. I'm just telling them something, like helping them refocus on what they're missing, because they're so torn about something else, or torn up about something else. And so it's important for me to go in there full of energy. So my morning cardio is kind of like my cup of coffee.
Mhm. That's awesome.
Thank
Yeah, of course. And it's clear that, the things you're doing, yes, they're for you, and yes, it's in gratitude, but there's also that motivation and drive and desire to make sure you're satisfying the needs of the people who are coming into your life that you are
you.
having that opportunity to serve.
Yes, yes,
Yep. I find that that's one of those things where if you know what you're driven by, it's so much easier to commit to certain things that are going to help to satisfy those values and satisfy those goals that you have. So if you know that you're going to be seeing patients, you're going to be working with people all day, it's a disservice to them, but also to yourself not to do something that's going to pump you up or get you in a place where you can do that to the best of your ability.
correct. And, one of the things that the staff told me when I joined Novant Health, because that's where I am now,
Hmm.
is you smile when you come in the office. And I'm thinking, yeah, because I can shift the whole room if I smile. I mean, like, you could be in a bad mood and I'm gonna smile at you, and I mean, unless we're walking out in the street, I mean, like, why would you not smile back, or at least feel some warmth, and they appreciate that,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah. I tell myself, though, this is funny. So sometimes, like, we all have those things about our day, or maybe some people or personalities that it just irritates you, right?
Hmm.
So I have to have I try not to ever go into the room with an unconscious bias. So when I know that I have to kind of like self-correct, take a deep breath, and then I always go, it's showtime. And then I just walk in. My assistants always laugh. Like, some of my older ones would say, you'll be out here like, oh God, I got a so-and-so. Then you go in there, hey, how are you today? They're like, you can shift it just like this. I'm like, you walk in that room, it's showtime. Like, you're on. Like, you cannot let them know, you know, that they're irritating you.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's very relatable. I get
You
that
know
way.
it.
Oh
Yes.
yes. At
Yeah.
the gym too, I'll
Me too.
experience that. People will start walking up to me and I'm like, "Okay."
Ugh, yep. Yeah.
Game
Yeah.
face.
That happened to me today. Yep. That happened to me today. And I'm like, I can't be mean, because you don't know who's a potential patient. You have
Mm.
a reputation to uphold. And I was actually the medical director for the gym that I train in,
Oh
you
no.
know. And so it's like, I can't be that person. but sometimes I just want to be off, you know, and I will have my
Yes.
headsets on. The only time I don't get it is if I'm training with someone.
Yeah.
But otherwise, people will stop me mid whatever and just, what are your thoughts about testosterone? Excuse me, sir.
Oh, really? I can't
I'm like,
believe
excuse
that.
me, sir. I'm trying to finish this set here. I mean, that's what I'm thinking, the bubble in my head or over my
Yes.
head. But I'm like, what does your doctor think about it? That's usually what I say.
Oh, that's smart.
You know, because I'm like, really, dude?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's like that fine line between setting a boundary but also protecting the person you are and
Yes,
the person you know you are and want to make sure you uphold that. Like if you know you're a genuine, nice, warm, accepting person, even when someone kind of pushes your buttons, you want to make sure you're still acting from that space.
correct. You have to, because you can ruin your reputation very easily.
Yeah, especially if you're
And
doing
you don't want to
something
be that person, you know?
right. Oh, that's
Yeah.
the mean doctor.
Yes. Or she's nice in the office, but she's a B, you know, in the gym or something. You know, you just don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
So I humble myself, you know, and I will just suck it up, buttercup. But sometimes I just really am like, are you that socially unaware? Look at my face right now. Like, I don't want to have this conversation.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta wear it on your face and hope that they have some
They
sort
don't
of
get it.
mirror neurons.
My friend Courtney is a dentist, and she trades with me sometimes. And she was like, girl, how do you do it? They come up and talk to you about anything. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's just, in a way, it's like endearing because they want to talk to you and they're showing respect. They're, you know, I mean, it's just, I mean, you can't be upset because obviously they want to know something from your perspective.
Yes.
So I always tell her, it's just God getting me ready for that TV show, girl.
That's awesome. Yes, you're manifesting it.
Yes.
Oh, that's super cute. I love that. There's always a bright side, and because you also ground yourself every morning too, I'm sure that that helps you to then approach those
Yes.
situations with that positive mindset. Yeah, I love that. I love the way that you create that frame of mind for yourself going into every day. I think that that is so important and something that a lot of people could, learn from and
Yes.
benefit from doing. And I wanted to talk to you a bit about your competition career,
Okay.
um, because you had one day just tried to do push-ups and realized
Yes.
you couldn't. That got you into like strength training. What made you fall in love with the lifestyle so much that you're like, I'm gonna commit to a competition?
So I'm like very goal oriented. I can't just do something for
Uh-huh.
no purpose. Like it can't just be, you know, like, okay, this is the little thing I'm going to do. So I one day was just trying to do push ups, as you just mentioned. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And this was 2012, maybe.
Okay.
And I was like, I used to be stronger than this. And so, and this happened to be like after I had gone like raw vegan, because I'm very type A or just black and white. Like I overdo everything. And so just everything was changing about my body, right? Because I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't doing
Okay.
anything right. I mean, I was juicing all the time or whatever. So in hindsight, I probably wasn't even taking in enough protein, even though, you know, that's all people tend to worry about. But I don't think I was taking enough protein. So I decided, like, I want to get strong. And my brother, I think, was home. My brother lives in the Middle East. And so he was home. And I think he mentioned something about my lats or something, you know, and I was like, I should start like strength training. You know, in my mind, I was just thinking,
Uh-huh.
like, I mean, he was complimenting me on my back, but I was thinking, I'm not strong. I may look strong, but I think I should start strength training. So I actually hired a trainer here in Charlotte who is vegan. And he was very helpful. He wasn't someone that could prep me for a competition. He told me that. But he was very helpful in looking at my nutrition, helping me look at it. And he was like, some of this stuff you just need to be eating. You know, like you don't need to be, I mean, like cooking it and eating it, you know, like
Mm.
you don't, and he was like, and you can't run this distance. I think I was running like 40 miles a week. He was like, you can't run
Wow.
this distance and still try to build muscle. Like they're counterintuitive. And so I, you know, trained with him. And I think it was one of my friends who was a physician had done her first competition in Atlanta area. And I was like, I reached out to her and I was like, tell me, a little bit more about this. Like, what made you get into it? Like, what do you have to do? Do you have a coach? Like, blah, blah, blah. And so I started looking for someone around here because I'm thinking, okay, if I'm about to start, like changing my physique, and that was my goal, was just to be as strong as I look, but also to just I was getting soft from all this running and probably not enough protein. Just my legs and everything were getting soft to me. So I was like, I need to show somebody what I'm doing. So she, was like, well, my coach is here in Atlanta. So I just started like reaching out to people or like looking it up on, I think it was Facebook at the time. And then I found my first coach who is a figure pro here in town. And that's how I started competing.
Wow. That's amazing. And so how long did it take you from that point of deciding to then actually stepping on stage?
So I decided, like, I think I got with her at the end of 2012, and I stepped on stage June 6th of 2013 for my first show.
Hmm.
And I had an injury in there because I
Really?
tore my calf muscle with the old trainer before I got with that's what really made me like go ahead and leave. I was just like, okay, I need to, because I'm working against my goals now. Like I'm going away from my goals. So I joined my new coach. Um, I think it was like December, January. And I
Mm.
had started with the other person maybe July. Yeah, it was
Wow.
July, August. So I think August, September, October, November. So maybe 4 months with the vegan trainer, and then I like got on with a coach who could help me compete. But tore my calf like before all of that, and so I was training with a boot on,
Wow.
but I was still training.
Yes, still showing up.
Once I was back weight bearing, because at first I couldn't even weight bear, so it affected work, everything, and it happened to be my driving leg.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, it was a mess, but got through it. And then
Yes,
I was with her for a year, um, and I went pro in 2014.
that's amazing.
Thank
And
you.
when you went pro, were you like, all right, I'm ready to like keep on going and
Yeah,
keep
I did. So I had already signed up to do, how when you're doing like the amateur shows, you can kind of sign up for a couple at a time. So I had
yes.
signed up for Team Universe, which is now NPC Universe, and then I think it was Masters Nationals,
Uh-huh.
and North Americans. So I went pro, and then I reached out to Gary Udit and I said, can I just do Masters Pro? And he said, sure. So that's what I did.
Oh, nice. Well, that worked
And
out in
then,
your favor.
and then I went out to California and did Iron Games. And then that's when I met
What year did
Kim.
you do that?
That was in 2014. I did
Okay.
it 2014, 2015, 2016.
I was there in 2015.
Okay, we were there together.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I was there.
Oh.
Yeah,
That was my very first show.
that's awesome. Yeah, I was there.
Oh my gosh, I'll have to look back at pictures
Please do.
because I watched every single Bikini Bro and I remember standing back there just going, oh my gosh, like these girls are amazing. And Iron Games has always been huge for the Bikini
Yes,
Pros. So
yes. And that year was really huge.
yes, I remember that. The lineup was just packed on stage
Yeah.
and I watched every girl's posing routine. It was just so inspiring and cool. I'm definitely gonna look up your picture from
Please
that year.
do. Please do.
I'll be like, I remember. But yeah, you know what? I love that you hopped into it. I think it's super cool how you've obviously developed a passion for it as well. So what are your plans right now for competing?
So I'm going to ramp it back up for 2020. I was going to say, what year is this? I think what I'm looking at is starting up around April.
Me too.
That's awesome. And like this year, I only did like 3 shows. So it's probably the least amount of shows I've done ever. But I had a lot of milestones this year. My son graduated from high school, started college. He's out of state. So I kind of wanted to get everything done in a time frame that wasn't going to be kind of taken away from what was going on with him, because
Mm.
I do appreciate the sacrifices that my family has made and continues to make for me to compete. So being mature, even though sometimes I may not act it, I knew that this year I probably wasn't going to be doing as many because getting him to New Jersey and, just sometimes you just don't feel like being on prep and taking progress pics, like, all this stuff when you need to be focused on these good things that are going on in his life.
Yeah.
So I started a new job this year and opened a new office. So I moved into that in May. My son graduated in June, and then he went off to college in August. So I did shows between April and September.
Wow, busy year.
Yeah. And then I decided I was touring around with the end of the year. And then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to chill and then just crank it back up for 2020. So probably like 4 shows next year.
Wow. What's your ultimate goal with it?
So I used to want to do like qualify for the Olympia, but I no longer really have that desire. I mean, maybe it'll come back now that they've changed the whole scoring again. But when it
Hmm.
was that you had to do a million shows, I was like,
Yeah.
I have some areas of my physique that I'm still wanting to develop. So my upper body has always been good, but because I was a distance runner, there's still some things I just want to see in my legs and my glutes and my hamstrings. So for me, it's still about just seeing my body evolve. And if I win a show, that's great. I mean, I've had
Mm.
pro wins in masters, and I think the best I've ever done in open was fourth. Um,
Wow.
but so that was in 2016. I think 2016 was my year. But now I'm just kind of at a point where I I just really want to see some things in my physique improve. So it's more of a personal thing. Obviously, we go on stage to be judged for that. So if I hear that in my feedback, I'm happy.
Yes. Exactly. I like that it's coming from that, like, it doesn't have to be for some grand
No.
goal. It can just be because I enjoy it. I enjoy the process and I want
Yes.
to do it because I want to do it. I want to see those changes for me.
Yes. And I just want to continue, to motivate people, to inspire people, to help them to realize that you're never too old to dream a new dream. Never.
Mm.
And so a lot of times just being more mature, sometimes I see people backstage that, they're just so stressed or, they're not enjoying it. And it's like, if I can just shed something positive or just be there to be some kind of positive light, I'm happy. Now when I first started, there was so much pressure to do this and that. I'm comfortable with who I am. I love my physique, but I know where I want it to be. And so if I don't have that goal of getting on stage, I don't know that it's going to get there. So the
Yeah.
stage is really like my motivator, but regardless of how I place or whatever, I just enjoy this. I love it. I just love it.
Yeah, it's an amazing sport and it's pretty cool the journey you went on to get there. And yeah, you're definitely like an all in or all out type of person, it sounds like.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
welcome. Of course. I think a lot of us competitors are that way, and
Yes.
it serves us well in many of our life pursuits. Like it just translates really well.
Yes, it does. And it's kind of like therapeutic. Like a lot of times people say, well, how do you do this all day and then you go work out? And I'm like, it's just who I am. Like if I'm going to give this much of me at work, then I got to put that much into me afterward.
Right.
Like I don't understand when people say like, I'm tired. I'm thinking, okay, maybe if you have a physical job, like if you're a mechanic or you're physically doing something, you may be tired. But for most of us, it's mental. So even if I have a migraine, I'm going to the gym. Like I had to come home and tell myself, all right, your head's hurting. You went to work today. So why would I not go to the gym?
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
I might have to alter what I'm doing because maybe I don't want to squat with a migraine, or whatever. But it's like, no, I'm going.
Yeah, you said your job can be emotional too, and there's a lot you get have thrown at you. So I'm sure like you go to the gym and you know that's going to be one part of your day that's totally yours, totally in your control, and something you
Predictable.
can, yes.
It's predictable. Yeah.
Yes,
And then I
that's a
just
great word.
always feel like we should invest in ourselves. Like
Right.
you should think just as much about your body and your temple as you do about all these other things that we worry about, our house, our car, your clothes or whatever. I'm just thinking like, no, I have to do this. I have to go.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, every day I'm kind of addicted to exercise. Always have been. Every day at 4 o'clock, I'm done. I mean, I'm not done, but I'm done.
Uh-huh.
So I'm always like praying, like, Lord, please let these last couple of patients be easy because I can't do this mentally tough stuff at the end of the day. So we've kind of worked my day, whereas same day appointments at the beginning of the day, same day appointments at the very end of the day. So it's usually like something simple,
Oh.
sore throat, rash, UTI, something where it's in and out. Because I'm done. By 4 o'clock, I'm just done. Like I need to go work out. And it has been this way my entire career. And
Yeah.
Lord, don't let it be Thursday at 4 o'clock because I'm really
You are ready to check out.
oh my goodness. Yes.
Do you ever work with other competitors in your office?
I do. I actually, and I love it. Yes, I do.
What are some of the things you tend to like focus on with them or help them through?
So, sometimes it's like female athlete triad stuff. So they're not menstruating or, their calories are low or, so that's one thing. Other times it may be just like athletic acne. I'm just saying those are like
Yes.
some of the mental, like I mean, the physical things. Obviously, sometimes after competing, there's some people have post-show blues or other things like that. So, and then I have some male competitors that I work with as well. They're always worried about their testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't do TRT, which is testosterone replacement therapy, but I'll check your levels and send you off to urology if they're low.
That's pretty cool. So when you have competitors walk in who are struggling with, let's say a female competitor coming in struggling with her menstrual cycle, what's like
Yes.
the first step you take?
So usually I do some blood work. Obviously, like let's say that their BMI, which is their body mass index, is is normal for them. Like for their
Mm-hmm.
composition and everything. So I'm not like it's not obvious that they're restricting too many. It may not be obvious to look at because it may be more exercise induced calorie restriction, right?
Right.
Which is usually the case. But a lot of times I will start with some blood work so that I can see, what their luteinizing hormone is doing, their FSH, their estradiol. I'll also look at their thyroid, just some of those things. And then the other thing is usually if it's a competitor, they're keeping track of their macros.
Yeah.
So we kind of look at the calories that they're consuming and then also kind of looking at how much they're expending with exercise and then try to, especially if they're in their off season, try to increase their caloric, I might make some recommendations on increasing their caloric intake a little bit to see if we can hit that homeostasis and everything else is okay where their menses will come back. Some of them, I'll do a progesterone challenge to make sure it's not ovarian failure. So what that entails is that I give them a prescription for a progesterone, which is no estrogen. So it's challenging their body. And they take it for 10 days out of each month. And then usually after like the second month or third month, they should see withdrawal bleeding, like after
Yes.
that first 10 days. And so that's just basically making their ovaries produce more estrogen to match the progesterone. It's like a challenge. And if they don't get a response from that, then sometimes we have to go see an endocrine.
Yeah. That was my life the past like for
Oh,
a
so you've
while
done that.
actually.
You've
Oh
done it.
yeah.
Okay.
That's why I was curious because I was like,
Yeah.
wonder what. I literally I saw well, I hadn't had my period in so long, and that was not just from competing. It was just like it just had stopped, and then I didn't really do anything about it before I got into competing, so that wasn't
Right.
helpful. But before I got into competing, I was already living the lifestyle anyways, so I know there was that on top of being an athlete, on top of being a student, on top of like all these different stressors that we have, and
Right.
then after my last show, I was like, I need to do something about this. My coach was like, you need to do something about this. And, I went to the doctor, got blood work done. And a few years ago, like I said, this was, back in 2015 after my first show, and I hadn't had my period for that. They did put me on progesterone for 10 days. So when you said that, I was like, sounds
Mm-hmm.
familiar. And that worked for me. And that was super
Yes.
fantastic. And I was like, yes. And I thought, this time around it would work again. And it did not work. And
Oh,
it was definitely a struggle this time around. But nutrition was the biggest thing for me. It made a
Yes.
huge difference. And what was unfortunate was that I didn't have, I was under a healthcare plan that was, everyone was under the same roof.
Yes.
And
Yes.
no one was giving me the opportunity to share what exactly I'd been doing. And it was very much like, well, you already talked to so-and-so, this is what you need to do. And they were like trying to put me on birth control.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, and I started reading the period diary, and I was like, I shouldn't do this. Like, it's not necessarily what I need to do. So, or I'm sorry, the period manual,
Yes.
and period repair manual. And I remember I went on birth control for 1 month, and I was like, this doesn't feel good. I'm not doing this, and I got super suicidal. I was having horrible side effects from it, and so I threw it all away after that first bit, and I was like, no, if I truly believe in nutrition being medicine, and I can do this, I'm going to do this. And I was like, I did my seed cycling. I cut out all my cardio, which I know you don't necessarily have to go to those
But it
extremes.
helps.
It
But it
did.
helps. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I just need to take off any pressure off myself, cut off all the cardio, increase my food like crazy, started like saying positive affirmations about my period. Like, I want my
Yes.
period. I love my period. I have healthy periods. And of course, all these things combined over time help me. I got it back. It's like my year anniversary, I think, when we're
That's
releasing this
awesome,
episode.
Celeste. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to share with someone who like deals with it and has the
Yes.
professional perspective. And I think it's amazing because everyone has different things that can change that. And for me, it seemed like stress impacts it a lot. And if that
Yes.
stress is exercise induced or induced or school and life induced, my period will
Yes.
instantly respond.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Like, you get to learn and know more about your body, and that helps you. So I learned from those mistakes, got my blood work done while I've had my healthy, like, strong period going for months now, so I could see what my levels are when it's going, and then if I ever struggled with it, I could see maybe where there was a gap.
Correct. And it sounds like your healthcare provider did all the things like systematically, which is good, except we just always need to be thinking about that nutrition, like you said. And that's
Right.
a touchy one. That's hard because a lot of times, like another thing I see, and I see more women than men as far as with issues, like the men usually are going to come in with like an injury or something, you know. But with regards to competing, the other thing is like when there's a competitor who is freaking out because they're not losing weight, they've plateaued, and it's like, okay, let's look at X, Y, and Z. We look at these things, and they need to increase their calories. And we've all been there where you're like scared because
Yes.
and I tell them that I'm like, listen, I know, you're not. This is not about me. This is about you. But I'm telling you, professionally and personally, I've been there, and you've got to trust me when I tell you that the only way we're going to fix your metabolism, you can do all cardio you want to, like make sure you're sleeping and all that, but we need to increase these calories. And
Yeah.
they're looking at you like, oh no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Eventually, when it does happen, and then their weight starts going in the other direction, it's like, oh my god. And it's just one of those things where you just have to trust your body, and especially if you can believe the person, like
Yeah.
if they're not eating excess calories, snacking here and there, you see
Right.
them in the gym grinding, they're working out, and it's like your body's not going to lose anymore. Like you're going to have to increase the calories.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a ton,
Exactly.
but it needs to increase. And I have a friend who recently, she's vegan and she's a competitor. She just doesn't compete in the NPC. And when she was prepping for a show, and she had lost a ton of weight, and her body was changing the way it needed to, and then it just kind of plateaued. And she confided in me the other day. She told me that she was even feeling anxiety about going to the gym. Her calories were so low, she didn't realize this is what it was doing to her. But her happy place became like this place of anxiety. She didn't know how she was
Mhm.
going to get through her workout. She felt awful all the time. So she and her coach decided that they were going to put off the show. She was going to do a show in December. They were going to
Yeah.
put it off until 2020. And it's not her first time competing. And, she reached out to me one day, and because she's vegan, we were talking about different things. And I told her, I said, you just need to eat. I said, it's just food. She told me that meant so much to her. The other night, she told me that. She said, when you said to me, it's just food, like
Mm,
it's fuel for your body. It's not like it's some drug. It's not a bad thing.
right.
She was so afraid to change her calories. And I literally took a picture of what I was doing. I was like, I'm about to eat a half of, I said, today is a refeed. I'm about to eat a half of Beyond Burger, no bun. But I showed her sometimes I do have this low carb bread in the mornings. And I had French fries in my air fryer. And I took a picture and I said, and I'm about to eat this with low sugar, or no sugar ketchup.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, thank you. And I said, this, I'm not making this up. This is proof. Like, so you have to eat and you just have to change your relationship with that. And
Yes.
now she was telling me my breasts are back, my body feels good,
Mm-hmm.
and it just takes time for you to get comfortable with your body in an off season. But when your calories are like 900 and you're working out and you're expending like over 1,000 calories, I mean, you're just
You
messing yourself
need
up.
food.
Yeah, you need food. You need food,
Yes. It-
especially if it's affecting your like emotional health.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. And what's, even deeper than that is a lot of people's relationship with food is what's causing a lot of those issues anyway. It's like
Correct.
they don't want to eat because their relationship with food is so hyper focused on, well, if I eat, I'm going to gain
Yeah.
fat. And because I don't want to get fat, I have this, negative association with food because of it. When really that's
I
not how
think
we.
we've all been there. I
Oh,
think we've all
absolutely.
experienced it at some point, and I'm just glad that I've been able to get past that. Because
Yeah.
then it allows me to be more open and help, my patients, my friends. Because when I was a runner, I've always been one that I won't say I restricted, but I'm always just like negotiating in my mind. Like, if I eat this or this, now I don't ever just overeat anything, but I don't stress it like that.
Yeah.
I don't stress it like that. If someone tells me, okay, you train heavy legs, I want you, after you train heavy legs once a week, to have a high calorie meal that's around this many calories, I'm gonna eat it. I'm eating it.
Yes.
I'm not asking any questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
it
that's how it should be because it's just food.
is. It's just food.
And we're going to learn from that food. Like,
Yes.
yeah, it's more positive than it is negative. And like you said, so many of us have been through it. So many competitors go through it. That's why this is my mission in life. This is why I'm committing to
Yes.
everything I'm doing, because I know what a massive impact it can make on our ability to succeed in the sport, as well as our ability to just enjoy life outside of the sport. Having fulfilling preps, having fulfilling improvement seasons, that's all important. But what happens when the curtains close? What happens when you're done? The heels are hung up. Like, what are you going to do from there? It's important
Right.
to have a healthy relationship with food, with
Food.
your body.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So wow, I'm honestly just amazed by everything that we've covered. I've got like 3 pages of notes.
That's
And
awesome, Celeste. This is
yeah,
awesome.
thank
This is so
you.
much fun. No, thank you.
Yeah, and I always love to wrap up the episodes with another question I ask everybody. So that is, what is your best advice for girls who are thinking about competing? And then what is your best advice for girls who are already competing and on their road to pro?
So, for anyone thinking about competing, I would say it's definitely a journey, and it's something that you need to have thick skin, because there's always going to be someone that has the look maybe that you want. So I won't say looks better than you, but we in our mind have this look that we want for
Mm.
our physique. And so there's always going to be someone that maybe has that look that you want, or that it factor, and you have to just always be yourself. Like, don't change who you are. You may have role models in the sport, and you may have little things that you're channeling, like your inner Norman, or your inner India or somebody, but you know bring your own little spin to the stage, and just don't change. I think
Mm.
that's what I would say as far as who you are. Remember how you were when you first made the decision. Commit to it, and don't let it attack your ego, because I think that's what makes the experience behind the curtain, or behind the scenes, negative for some people, is they don't realize like I'm being catty, or I'm being negative, or I'm, not being cordial to this person. And it shouldn't be that way. It's a personal thing.
Mm.
It should be a personal goal. And, you shouldn't let anything change that. So you've got to get your mind in the right space, your mindset in the right space, because you're going to be judged, and you have to be ready for that.
Ugh, I love that. That's amazing advice for anybody.
Thanks. But that's
Yeah.
what I like to talk to people about, because some people get so bummed out, and I tell them, however you felt about yourself when you walked out of your hotel room, that's how you should feel regardless of where you got called out. If you
Oh,
felt good about your package when you walked out the door, then you shouldn't come back to your room and start all this, ranting, or, I'm so horrible. No, it's just what showed up that day. You did or didn't fit into it. But it doesn't mean that your physique isn't worthy.
mm. Ooh, that's powerful right there. I love that. Just
Thanks.
tapping into how you felt when you left the hotel room. That's really visual as well. Like I know and I've been the competitor walking down the hallway, like throwing myself a party, all excited, got my robe on, cute slippers, like let's go get that, glaze on. Let's go see these athletes. And you don't know what's gonna it's like Schrodinger's cat. You really don't
Yeah,
know what's
you
gonna
don't.
be
You
in
don't.
that box.
And that's the same thing I would say to someone on the road to pro is, you just have to be comfortable in your own skin and confident in who you are, just as confident when you walk out the hotel room as when you walk back in it.
Mm.
Always get feedback and consistently, like follow through with that feedback, especially on your road to pro. As much as you can get feedback and it's consistent with, maybe we usually know, we usually
Yeah.
know, like, okay, I need to work on this. I remember Tamer used to always tell me, in the front, man, you won. He said, you turn around and the back don't match the front. He was like, when you get the back to match the front, you're talking about like from the waist down. He's like, then you're unstoppable, and that's
Yeah.
helpful, and I love it. I mean, you've got to be open to constructive criticism, to feedback, so
Yes.
that you can obtain that pro card. You have to
Yes.
be. I think that's important with anything. Everything, you get a survey and you want to know the person's experience and this or that. So it's the same thing. Some people don't want feedback, or they're like, I know I look the best. Okay. But why don't we just get feedback so we can figure out, maybe it was the posing, or maybe it was just the look. It may not be your physique.
Yeah. Maybe something was super distracting.
Right. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's the color of your bikini
Exactly.
with the lighting on the stage, you know? And just be
Yes.
humble and receptive. I guess that's the other thing too. Whether you're thinking about it, or especially when you're on the road to pro, be humble and receptive to the judge's opinion and feedback.
Mm.
Like, don't be disrespectful. But
I
one of the
love
things
that.
that I pray that doesn't happen as much anymore is, we've all been there too, is like, you see like the judges not paying attention to somebody, like when they're posing,
Yeah.
you might be watching a video and you're like, they didn't even look up. I think I wish the feedback could go both ways sometimes too. I
Yeah.
haven't personally experienced that, thank goodness, but um, I'm empathetic. So I put myself in a person's shoes, and that just can't feel good. Like if they don't look up at you at all,
Right.
and you've prepped all this time, and you're there. I think it's more professional, like to hear someone out, or just to watch their presentation. Just like you got to
Exactly.
be ready for when they start pointing. When you're like, one time I love Tamer, so I'm gonna bring him up again. But one
Yes.
time I was posing, I think it was in Vegas, and he was talking to Marlene and pointing, and I was like, well, I actually like won that master's class. And I
Hmm.
think he was just talking about what he was looking at, but I was thinking to myself, oh God, what's happening? Like I didn't know.
Right. Yeah, there's stuff. I've heard stories about girls who, the judges unfortunately weren't, some of them weren't at the table or they were distracted or there was other things going on with the show. And that's never happened to me. And I hope that it never does happen, like you said, but it's happened. And then there was a show one time where one of the judges kept pointing at me and he was like, turn. His name was Tony. He's like, turn, turn, turn. I'm like, oh my God, because of the number thing.
Yes, yes.
And I couldn't tell what he was trying to say. And
Yeah.
I was like, what is he trying to say? And then I'm like trying to keep a smile on my face. And I'm like looking down at him. And he's like, he just keeps making a hand motion. I'm like, I literally don't know. And then after the show, like after prejudging, he's like, your number, you need to turn more. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, okay.
Yes.
Like, but I was like, but sometimes you just don't know what they're thinking or what they're saying.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Correct.
Like, to your surprise, you got to win.
Right. But I did not know what was going on. Like, I was
Right.
like, and he can give you a look where you're like, oh, shit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know those looks. I've been in front of those judges. Yep.
Yes.
Tamer and Tarek.
Yes.
So, yeah, I've got their faces memorized. I've got, like, pretty much all of Muscle Contest judging panel memorized.
I love Muscle Contest. Love them.
Yeah, it's pretty special. I've actually never done a show non-Muscle Contest. That'll probably change this year, but, that's the show I'm hoping to do coming up in April.
Yes, that's awesome.
Thank you. So I just appreciate everything you've shared on this episode, like all the insight and the knowledge. And I'm going to have so much fun typing up the notes for this and creating the title because we covered so many different things. And to have your expertise as well as your experience, it meant a lot to me and for all the time you took to spend with us. So would you mind letting everybody know how they can connect with you and, thank you as well?
Yes, and thank you, first of all, for, as I said before, circling back to me since I had all this crazy stuff going on the first time. I have really enjoyed this, and I just appreciate you. If you can connect to me on IG, I'm Diva Fit Doc. So that's DIVAFITDOC. Or you can email me at veganbikinidoc@gmail.com. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, awesome.
I mean, I'm on Facebook too, but it's just an athlete's page. So it's Harriet Davis, IFBB Pro.
Okay, good. So I'm going to put all of that, including the Facebook, in the show notes page.
Okay.
So to everyone listening, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away when this episode comes out, that means that Harriet's episode is going to be at the very top of that page. If not, there's going to be a category section with her name. So if you're looking for this, you can always go there. I want to say thank you guys so much for all the rating, the reviews, the subscriptions, the downloads, all of the above. It means so much to me. And it is the 17th, which means that we are 1 week out from not just the Fit Expo, but my next Build More Than Just a Body live event, which I'm super, super looking forward to. And I know I get to meet some of you guys listening. So I just want you to know I'm very excited. If you are curious about coming, maybe reach out to me. We'll see if there's some spots left. Things tend to change towards the end of the week as they did last time I hosted an event. So if you are curious, reach out and let me know. But with all of that being said, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode.